Bag alert, bag alert, bag alert, bag alert, bag alert. The streak continues, folks. The schedule has been released. Tua is holding out for a contract. Justin Jefferson is contract talks. Brandon Ayuk dilemma. We all know that's just a bad situation as a whole. CeeDee Lamb is letting Jerry Jones that time is ticking. Jamar Chase and T. Higgins is holding out, as well as Tristan Wirfs. We got a lot to discuss. We're going to break everything down on the ninth episode of the Football Junkies podcast. I'm your host, your GM, the GM who has produced multiple All Pros, multiple Hall of Famers, and who currently is not on the team right now. Kale, let's get it. All right, folks. So, crazy turn of events. I was literally getting ready to put out an episode yesterday when I checked my phone, and next thing I know, I got another bag alert, folks. So the streak continues. Yes, let's see if this streak can continue all the way up to the start of the first game of the season. Let's see. Who knows? I'm looking forward to it. But let's just dive into the stats and everything. All right. So Nico Collins, a receiver for the Texans, inked a 3-year, $72.7 million extension with them, with a $17 million signing bonus. $52 million of that is guaranteed, which would average around $24.2 million a year, according to SpotRack. Now, when we look at Nico Collins has been a very productive receiver since being drafted by the Texans. Okay, and if we can be real here, he was having a crazy season last year. Okay, let me just read off the stats that he had last year. So he had 80 receptions, 1,297 yards, 8 touchdowns, and he averaged 16.2 yards a carry. That is really good numbers for someone like a Nico Collins. Okay, and now that they added with them getting Stephon Diggs in the trade, and then Tank Dell coming back, and then I think they traded for another receiver that was with the Rams. That is a very loaded, dangerous receiving core, folks. CJ Stroud is going to continue to be a terror, not only in his division, but to other AFC teams. I would not be surprised if they're back in the same situation that they were last season. Okay. Now, let's go a little bit deeper into the analytics, okay? So, according to Next Gen Stats, he was first in receiving yards as an isolated receiver in 2023 with 546 yards. He was second in receiving yards on post routes, according to Next Gen Stats, by the way, of Fox. It was an article when I did the research and found it. And he was sixth in catch rate on an in-breaking routes at 73.9%. These are really good numbers, okay? Nico Collins is not getting talked about as much as he should be because he is up there, okay? When you talk about someone that's a productive receiver who basically every single time he gets the ball, he's making, big plays and whatnot, that's what you need. And so, with the Texans having the offense that they have, they can put up 20, 25, maybe 30 points a game. They can do that because guess what? Teams are going to be focused on Stephon Diggs. Teams are still going to be focused on Tank Dell. They're still going to be focused on Nico Collins. They have a almost complete rotation for that receiving core, okay? And it's only going to get better from here, folks, okay? Everything that they have done at this point for that offense is just spectacular. And I would not be surprised if they try to give a team like the Ravens, like the Chiefs, a run for their money. Because they can do it. They have the offense and they do have the defense as well. People are sleeping on the Texans defense. But they did make some good moves for the defense. With them having Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson on one line, whew, terror, okay? Terror, all right? Now, congratulations to Nico Collins getting his deal. Now, let's talk about the people who are trying to get their deals and future bag alerts, okay? So, Tua currently is still in contract talks with the Dolphins. Apparently, according to Jeremy Fowler of ESPN, There has been one contract offer that was already put out, but of course, Tua's camp declined it. Now, before we get any further with market value, anything like that, let me just be completely honest here. And I want to continue to reiterate that I am someone who is pro player, want everybody to get paid and whatnot. But at the same time, we have to address the elephant in the room here, okay? Paying to a top dollar money is somewhat of a double edged sword. And the reason why I say that is because his extensive injury history, specifically with concussions, okay? In 2022, he had 5 concussions in that one season. 5, okay? He had them in week 5, week 6, week 17, week 18, and in the wild card. That's not good. That is not good at all, folks. That is not a good cycle that you want to have. We have seen players who have had to medically retire because they were suffering too many concussions. Case in point, former All-Pro linebacker Luke Kuechly for the Panthers. He had to medically retire because he was getting so many concussions in a small amount of time. And, around that time, the rules weren't as more strict when it came to enforcing, concussions and whatnot. So unless it was like really, really bad where like, he couldn't walk off the field or something, he still was going to go out there. He may miss a game or two or whatever the case may be, but he was going to be back on the field at some point. Compared to now where it's, they have people that are specifically looking at players and, if they feel like they have a concussion, then they'll take them out and, do whatever procedures that they need to do. So when we look at Tua coming into the league had suffered a major injury while in college. Let's be real here, folks. The injury that he suffered is a similar injury to what Bo Jackson suffered when he was with the Raiders. And that ended his career. Now, medicine has evolved and has gotten more advanced now. And, Tua was able to, get drafted and then eventually play the league and be where he is right now. But the fact of the matter is, paying Tua a lot of money can either hurt you right now or is going to hurt you in the future. Because whether we want to admit it or not, no matter, how fast that they want to try to get the offense to be, no matter how many track stars that they get, no matter how many people that they get that can run a 4.2 or a 4.1 or whatever the case may be, it's still not going to defeat the purpose that at some point Tua is going to get hit. And you don't want it to be a hit where it could end his career or worse. You don't want that. And so, in this situation, you have to configure a contract to where if anything crazy happens, right, he would still get his money, but you would only take the fall for maybe a year compared to, trying to scratch your head and figure out, okay, we're going to have to push this, down the road year by year by year, right? So when we look at his market value, according to SpotRack, his market value is a 4-year, $198.5 million deal, which is, which averages around $49.6 million a year. Now, that is, a pretty good contract. It is. But it all depends on how they configure it. If they front load this deal, meaning that, the first 3 years is when, the highest cap hits and the signing bonuses and all that different type of stuff is in, that means that, the rest of those years, it's easy to work with. It's easy to digest and, break down and figure out how you're going to work with it. Compared to, basically backloading the deal and now you're trying to figure out how and where you're going to be able to pay, anybody else that you want to pay because they still have people that they have to pay. They got Javon Holland that they're going to have to pay, Jalen Phillips, possibly Tyreek Hill soon, and Jalen Waddle. And I can tell you right now, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, they're going to want top dollar money. So someone's going to have to get the axe. Someone's going to have to get the bottom of the totem pole, unfortunately. Now the question is, who will that be? How will that, conspire? And, will the Dolphins be willing to possibly pay Tua? Now, if it was me personally, as I put on my GM hat, as always, I would probably do a franchise tag. And, if his number comes down just a little bit and it's reasonable, then, we can do business. But if it's, still something crazy where he wants to make just as much money as Lamar or Josh Allen or, any of the top players, then, we're just going to have to disagree. And we're just going to have to let you test free agency. Because whether we want to admit it or not, Tua does have a market. He has a market. Now, it's just a matter of, is it a defined market? Okay. And the reason why I'm saying defined market is because sure, there are teams that are always going to be interested in players, but it's a matter of how much money will they be willing to spend for such player, right? Especially for quarterbacks, because quarterbacks, are a dime a dozen, especially really good to elite quarterbacks. They are very hard to get because they get locked up so quickly. Once they get locked up, they're going to stay with that team basically for the rest of their career unless, something crazy happens. Then it's like, okay, then they'll be a free agent and, do whatever. But, aside from that, they're going to stay with that team probably for the rest of their career. Um, so, it's a case of wait and see and figure out exactly what's going to happen. Hopefully, they do find some mutual ground and they do get a deal done that is beneficial to both Tua and the team, while at the same time making sure that they protect themselves in case of anything crazy happens. Now, moving on to Justin Jefferson. All right. Now, as we all know, Justin Jefferson is one of the best receivers in the league. He's one of the most popular players in the league right now. But the Vikings have a very, tough decision that they have to make right now because the wide receiver market is in a standstill. Everybody is waiting to see who's going to fire the first shot. Everyone. Amon-Ra St. Brown got his deal. Okay. He's already reset the market. Then a few days later, A.J. Brown reset the market and guarantees, if I'm not mistaken. And then here we are now. Okay. So you literally have Brandon Ayuk, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Justin Jefferson and CeeDee Lamb all looking for a new deal. The question is, who's going to be the first person, right? Justin Jefferson is going to reset the market. I don't care what anyone says. I don't care what any analyst says, any former player, any, journalist or person that just want to talk on a microphone. Justin Jefferson is going to reset the market. And when he does reset the market, the only person that could probably get close or maybe oversee his deal could possibly be Tyreek Hill. And even then, there are limitations with him because, teams aren't going to be as willing to like shell out all of this money, especially to a receiver. They're just not. So it's a wait and see type of moment. And if we're being real here, it's going. This could probably draw out into possibly deeper into the training camp and whatnot. I would not be surprised because everybody's waiting to see who's going to reset the market next. Is it going to be CeeDee Lamb? Is it going to be T. Higgins? Is it going to be Jamar Chase? Is it going to be Justin Jefferson? Is it going to be Brandon Ayuk? If it was me personally, I feel like Justin Jefferson is going to reset the market first. CeeDee Lamb is probably going to get as close as he can to it. Then it's going to be Brandon Ayuk, then everybody else, right? Because when we, observe and we look at the market value for some of these receivers, better yet, let's start with T. Higgins, for instance, right? T. Higgins' market value, surprisingly, when I did the research, is actually very lower than what I expected, okay? He would be valued at a 5-year, $98.5 million deal, which would average around $19.7 million a year. T. Higgins should not be valued that low. He shouldn't. T. Higgins on another team could possibly be a 1 or a 2. Okay? T. Higgins was on the Bengals before, they became who they are right now. So you would think that the Bengals, would compensate him for that, and they haven't. And I remember there was a report that came out that basically the Bengals haven't even talked to T. Higgins about a contract extension since last March. Last March, okay? That's not good, especially when they just paid Joe Burrow all that money. Okay? Everybody knows that if they do not keep that core, things are not going to look good for the Bengals. It's just not. I'm sorry. And then, not to mention, it doesn't help that, his teammate, Jamar Chase, is also looking for money as well. And even then, when you look at his market value is a 3 year, $90.7 million deal, which would average around $30.2 million a year. That's not gonna sit well with that receiving core. It's just not. Because T. Higgins' argument is probably going to be, I was here before all of this. I was here when we were struggling to, be a better team. We were going through multiple quarterbacks and the offense really wasn't doing anything. We were at the bottom or at least third place in the division. That's what he's thinking. Okay. I don't know how this is going to, pan out, but all I can say is this is not going to be good. This is not. And I would not be surprised if T. Higgins, will possibly sit out maybe, or just, he'll just sign the tag and just, do whatever. Because whether we want to admit it or not, the Bengals have been a little bit shysty when it comes to their business lately. And it shows, okay? They have to do better when it comes to paying their key players. Okay, Tyler Boyd, if you that's perfectly fine. Okay, not saying anything about that, but you have to try to keep that core in T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. You have to. Whatever you have to do, do it. Because if you don't, you are going to see Joe Burrow regress. Mark my words. Mark my GM words. You are going to see it. Because Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, they do a lot on that offense. And they create so much of a presence on that field that, at times they might have to get doubled. They might have to get tripled or whatever the case may be. Just because of, how big of a playmaker they are. So it's sort of a wait and see type of situation. And even then when we look at CeeDee Lamb's situation, CeeDee Lamb has let it be known that the clock is ticking and that he wants to get paid soon. But the problem is with his situation is both he's in a contract year and Dak is in a contract year. And then pretty soon Michael Parsons is going to be in a contract year. That's 3 players that, if we're being real here, 2 of them are probably going to get close to resetting the market. Okay? I don't know if Jerry wants to do that. Now, granted, Jerry does take care of his players. That is the one thing that we can all agree on. Jerry Jones does make sure that he takes care of his players. But at the same time, he is going to try to get the best value possible. Now, has he overpaid for players when he shouldn't have? Yes, of course he has. But he makes sure that he takes care of his players. So I would not be surprised if this draws out, longer, possibly into training camp, because CeeDee Lamb in his eyes believes that he is a top 5 receiver, and I'm not going to disagree with him on that. But at the same time, the question is, does Jerry value CeeDee Lamb more or Dak more? That's the question. Because the team right now is at a crossroads where either they can continue to progress and they just, they pay CeeDee Lamb and then figure out what they're going to do with the quarterback, or they re-up with Dak, but at the cost of possibly losing CeeDee Lamb to free agency. That is a very tough decision that they're going to have to make, and it's not going to look good, but hey, they got to do what they got to do, right? Moving forward to the whole Brandon Ayuk dilemma. Unfortunately, yes, we do have to talk about Brandon Ayuk because he is in that same boat with a lot of these receivers, right? Brandon Ayuk, if we can be honest here, is in a situation where, and I've said this before in previous episodes, you can either take less and still be on the team and possibly compete to win a championship, and then when you hit free agency, you can re-up and get more money, or you get traded to another team and you get the money, but you never get close to winning a championship. That's the dilemma right here. Because whether we want to admit it or not, the 49ers are not in a position where they can just continue to reset the market for every single star player. They just can't do that. It's not possible, okay? They reset the market for Nick Bosa. They reset the market for Christian McCaffrey. They reset the market for Trent Williams. At some point, someone's going to have to take less. Someone. And if Brandon Ayuk makes more money than what Debo is making, that's going to muddy up the waters. Which, I mean, if we're being real here, the waters are already muddied up with them drafting 2 receivers. With them drafting Ricky Pearsall in the first round, that already just puts a damper in everything. Because now you have a receiver core that's just stacked that, honestly speaking, who's really gonna get a majority of those reps? Probably Debo and probably whoever else is still on the team. Okay? There's only one ball. Only one ball. So not everybody's going to be able to do something. And so someone's going to have to go. Now, if it's me personally, I feel like Debo will probably go because his contract is more digestible for some teams. So teams will be able to manipulate it a little bit more in their favor compared to, giving up high draft compensation for Brandon Ayuk and then having to pay him top dollar money, right? When we look at Brandon Ayuk's market value, right, he is valued at a 4-year, $106 million deal, which would average around $25.5 million a year. Well, correction, 26.5. Sorry. If we can be real here, yes, that is, pretty normal, but at the same time, at some point, you have to put the line in the sand, okay? Brandon Ayuk is not a $30 million a year type of receiver. He is not. He's not up there with A.J. Brown. He's not up there with DK Metcalf. He's not up there with Cooper Kupp. He is definitely not up there with Justin Jefferson or Tyreek Hill. He is not, okay? So, if you're a team that is looking for a receiver, you have to figure out, okay, if we try to make a move for someone like a Brandon Ayuk, how much money is he going to ask from us? Can we do it? Is it going to work? And are we still going to get the same production that San Francisco got? Those are very tough decisions, and those are very tough questions that teams are going to have to ask themselves, unfortunately. Now, if it was me personally, if I was in Brandon Ayuk's shoes, if I was in his inner circle, I probably would say take less. Take less. Take a 2 or a 3-year deal, so that, guess what? If y'all win a championship, guess what? You can hit free agency next, and then you can really re-up. Get the bag. You could go to a crappy team, wouldn't matter, because guess what? You got your championship. You got a ring. So that's all that matters. You are cemented in history, right? Compared to just, basically saying, I want all this money, I want all this money, I want all this money. When in actuality, guess what? The 49ers are going to tell you, we can only fit this much on this small little plate. So what you're asking for doesn't fit on this plate. So either, you cut it in half, or we're just going to have to take you off the plate. I know it's a crazy analogy, but hopefully you follow with me on that. But, it's a very tough situation for GMs right now because it's a standstill for receivers. Because once the other person gets a deal, then they're going to be like, okay, we want a different deal. We want more guarantees, or we want a bigger signing bonus, or we want this, or we want that. It's a very, very, very tough situation right now. But hopefully something gets resolved pretty quickly and everybody gets paid and, everybody is happy. But at the end of the day, as everyone says, this is a business. And sometimes you have to make business decisions that not everybody is going to agree with, unfortunately. But moving forward to Tristan Wirfs. Tristan Wirfs, in my mind, is 1A and 1B with Penei Sewell. Okay? Those 2 tackles are the 2 best young tackles in this league right now. When Trent Williams retires and whatnot, those 2 are going to continue to carry the mantle of being the best tackles, okay? Tristan Wirfs is in a situation where he is someone who can play both right tackle and left tackle at an elite level. And if you're the Buccaneers, you have to figure out, okay, um, how much money do we have to shell out to keep him? Because let me be real here. Let me be crystal clear with what I'm about to say. If the Buccaneers let Tristan Wirfs walk into free agency, I guarantee you, before the end of the first day of free agency, he would have already inked a deal, and his deal will be way more, or probably even as close to what Penei Sewell just got, because he's that good of a tackle. And it's not like there's a whole bunch of Tristan Wirfs and Penei Sewells and Trent Williams and Ronnie Stanleys and this person, that person just sitting around. It's not. It's very hard to find elite tackles nowadays. The Lane Johnsons of the world, Trent Williams, like I just said, Tristan Wirfs, Penei Sewell, all of those guys. Tyron Smith, during his heyday. It's hard to find those type of tackles. David Bakhtiari. I know I'm just listing people off, but the names just keep on coming. But the point is, you have to invest into the offensive line. You've already secured the bag for the quarterback. You've already secured the bag for your receiver. So basically, he can end his career with you guys. Pay the tackle, because if you don't pay that tackle, I can't guarantee that you'll be able to find someone who will be just as good or even better than what Tristan Wirfs is. And even then, who is to say that you will be able to move up to be able to get him? These are very tough decisions. And so if you're a GM, you have to make sure that you keep, someone like a Tristan Wirfs on the team. You have to. No matter what you have to do, no matter if you have to cut, a veteran player that's been with the team, all his life or whatever, I'm sorry, you might have to take a pay cut, because we got to keep this guy, because he's that good. And you have to protect, the blind side of the quarterback. Otherwise, they're going to get clotheslined for basically 4 quarters. And quarterbacks don't want that. They don't. Now, moving on to the schedule release. Okay. Now, before we go deep into the schedule release, big shout out to the Chargers for once again putting out the fire that is their schedule release videos. Folks, if you have not seen any of the Chargers release videos when the schedules drop, please, you have to watch them, because each and every year they get better and better and better. Like this year, they had something to where there was a QR code for the Raiders, and if you scanned it, it actually sent you to the National Clown Foundation's website. I know, it's crazy, right? So when we look at this schedule is, is tedious for some teams, and it's, pretty good to others, and just downright horrible for others, right? If you're a team in the AFC North specifically, this is going to be a tough stretch for you. This is going to be a really tough stretch for you. Like, I know for the Pittsburgh Steelers, they have a stretch to where they have to go up against the Chiefs, the Eagles, the Ravens, and then like another AFC North opponent. Back to back to back to back to back. That's a lot, okay? Now, if we're being real here, right? When we look at this schedule, we have to look at it from an analytical standpoint, right? And the reason why I say that is because you can sort of understand and see, like, okay, this is the reason why that team, this is why their schedule is the way that it is. This is why, this team's schedule is a little bit harder than the others. This is why. So let's sort of look deep into this, right? So according to Sharp Analytics, shout out to Sharp Analytics, the easiest schedules for the 2024 season includes the Falcons, Chargers, Bears, Jets, Saints. Okay, now all of those teams sort of have something in common. Either they're going through a rebuild, they just got their star quarterback, or they're still a young team and they don't have as much star power on their roster, right? Now, when you look at the hardest schedules for the 2024 season, you have the Pittsburgh Steelers, Patriots, Browns, Ravens, and Vikings. Now, out of all of those teams, right, one of those teams is a Super Bowl caliber team. The other ones are playoff caliber teams. Now, if we can be real here, folks, sometimes these schedules can get pretty crazy. They can, and well, you know what? This probably just turned into a quick rant. Honestly speaking, here with these international games, I think the league does need to figure out if they can possibly squeeze in a second bye week. Because it's not fair to players that they have to leave at a certain day and then expect to play a game within 1 or 2 days after landing someplace internationally. And it's not like they're going to places like Mexico or somewhere. They're going to places like London, Germany, Brazil this year, possibly to Australia from what I've heard. Like, these are not just okay, they'll only take maybe about 5 hours to get there. Like, no, these are plane rides that are going to take multiple hours. And so players might be jet lagged, or they might have to stretch, or whatever the case may be. So you have to figure something out if you are the league, because you still have to compensate these players. Okay, whether we want to admit it or not, they're human at the end of the day. Okay, and so you cannot just say, "Oh yeah, we wanna have an 18-week season," or "Oh, we want to have games, in Australia, or we want to have games here or there." Like, you just can't do that. You have to factor in the players, the travel, how will it affect the players and whatnot. Listen to the feedback of the players when they do go to these international games, like in Germany and London, and figure out some common ground that can, you know, that can help both the league and also the players. Because if you don't, players are going to push back, and you don't want that. And trust me, we've already experienced one holdout. Okay, you don't want to experience a second one. Now, I decided to do sort of a little experiment, and I decided to choose one team with the easy schedule and one team with a hard schedule. So, for the easy schedule, I decided to choose the Chargers. And for a hard schedule, I decided to choose the Ravens. So let's start with the Chargers, okay? So the Chargers opponents for this season include the Raiders, Panthers, Steelers, Chiefs, Broncos, Cardinals, Saints, Browns, Titans, Bengals, Ravens, Falcons, Chiefs, Bucks, Broncos, Patriots, and Raiders. Now, when you look at this schedule does has its highs and lows, as as any schedule does, but it allows the team to sort of go through the roller coaster that is the season. So especially with them having a new coach and having a new offensive coordinator, you kind of want to see exactly what's going to happen. How's the team going to be able to go up against some of these teams, and are they a team where they can possibly make a leap to being a playoff team, or are they a team that they still need another year or two to possibly become better via the draft, free agency, or whatever the case may be, right? So when we look at the Ravens, for instance, since they have a hard schedule, their opponents include the Chiefs, Raiders, Cowboys, Bills, Bengals, Commanders, Bucks, Browns, Broncos, Bengals, Steelers, Chargers, Eagles, Giants, Steelers, Texans, and Browns. Now, when you look at them, there are some stretches in the Ravens schedule where it's going to be hard for them. It's going to be very difficult for them. And if we're being real here, for the Ravens, they have to send the message week one. They have to. They have to send the message week one to the Chiefs, because if they don't, the Chiefs are going to feel themselves. Okay, they're going to believe that, hey, we beat y'all in the postseason, we can beat y'all in the regular season. Okay, and if you're a Ravens fan, you don't want that. You just don't. So I say all that to say this. These schedules are going to get more and more crazier. The primetime games, do I like them? Some of them, do I feel like the Christmas game they should just get rid of? Yes, personally, I just feel like who really wants to watch football on Christmas? Okay, if it's Thanksgiving, I'm not going to argue with it. I'm just not. But Christmas, come on, guys, come on. We have to do a better job, because when are they going to be able to really spend time with their family on Christmas? So you mean to tell me I got to play football on Christmas? Come on, man. That's just not cool. But I'm going to end this episode right here. I don't want this episode to be long and drawn out. I know for the past couple of weeks the episodes have been a little bit drawn out, so I just want to get something a little bit easier. Just to give you the fix that you need. If you guys like what you are listening, please follow us on Instagram at football_junkies pod. We're going to be putting out some more content as well. And make sure that you download these episodes on whatever streaming platform that you guys are listening to, whether it be Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever the case may be. Make sure that you guys are downloading, leaving a review, and giving us a rating, possibly 5 stars if can, please. I would definitely appreciate it. We're going to try to see if we can also put out some content for the YouTube as well. We got to make sure that we feed the YouTube junkies as well. So I want to try to see if I can convert the older episodes into YouTube videos, trying to work through that, as well as create content for TikTok. So a lot of things are going on behind closed doors. I'm excited to put out more content for you guys. And as always, hopefully I gave you the fix that you need this week for all my football junkies out there. I thank you everybody for listening and supporting so far. And it's only up for here because this is one of the best sports podcasts that you are going to listen to, okay? Just believe that we are going to be number one soon and very soon. And with that, peace and love. I'm out.